I'm very pleased to introduce to you Arturo Gomez. Arturo is a guy who graduated as a vet in Spain. He's worked in France for the National Research Institute for 8 years, and then for 8 years worked in practice. In 2008 he moved to America, and it might have been soon after that that he and I met, I think, with Nigel Cook. And he was accepted to do his master's at Wisconsin University. So he's now finishing his PhD, focusing on lameness in dairy cows, specifically digital dermatitis. And I know that there's a group of heifers that he's basically lived with for about 18 months, I think, and watched how he can actually reduce the incidence of digital dermatitis. And maybe that's something he'll touch on with his talk, Modern Management of Digital Dermatitis and Winning the Fight. So Arturo, thank you. You're very welcome, and thanks for traveling across.
Well, thank you very much again. It's my first time in England, and I'm really enjoying it. If I come back someday, I'm going to consider it a success, okay? And because being here for a lameness talk at that time of the afternoon, it's quite an accomplishment for some of you, and if you are here for respect to the presenter like I am, then it's good too. We left yesterday I just bumped you with etiology stuff and pathophysiology, so I hope that today you can get some useful tools that you can use on farms. Craig, Gordy, John Fetro were giving talks mainly for the farmers, for the owners, where the money is. And I have the impression after talking to Richard that I said, is it a nutritional conference only? He said, no, we try to make it balanced. And I really think that they do it. So my part of the balance is I'm going to be talking mostly for the managers. If you are an owner and you don't have employees, then I'm talking to you too. But try to make it all over the board. So yesterday, and I'm looking at this cartoon, it's just the purpose of that is I'm not really going to tell anything new. I'm just going to connect the information that I gave you yesterday. And if that makes sense, then everything is straightforward, okay? So it's Vicente Van Potato that's doing new things. It's not that new, but it's probably a little bit different. If you remember yesterday, we talked that the main thing, and it's a little bit of mind setting, changing a little bit what you probably, some of you might be thinking about controlling warts, is think about the acute to chronic movement from M2s to chronic lesions as you need an active surveillance to find them and treat them somehow. This is the way that you can reduce the incidence of new cases. And going from chronic to acute, you need the foot baths. And you do those topical and foot baths in your farms. You know how to do them, but with the mindset, and you are going to have a lot more of success. And I really think that you can get rid mostly of your digital dermatitis, or even taking it to the lower concern, and we call that a manageable state of the disease. Okay, you can manage it very easy. I don't think that is rocket science. It just makes to use a little bit of common sense. So that's the list I make for you. This is the shopping list, and although it's quite long list, it can be integrated in your management. I'm going to do it focusing just looking like a horse only for digital dermatitis, but it's not just more than things that you can do doing other things like managing other type of lameness or even reproduction or something like this. We are very good at mastitis, we are very good at repro, but we are not that very good yet to controlling lameness, okay? And that's a endemic problem in farmers, cows, consultants, everything. When I was trying to do that list, I said, oh, if I shuffle them around, so this is not an order list in terms of importance, but look, if I put it in order, I said the fighter. And it's like a mnemonic device that can help me to remember what I'm going to do to control my digital dermatitis. So we start with the F. This is probably the most common thing that everybody's doing. If you look at here, this is a summary of 71 hertz from first step evaluations all over the world, and mainly in the US. But this is the standard of the industry that you have. Probably also here in England is 170 centimeters long foot baths. And the magic on that, there is no magic. Somebody sometime thought, you know, we are going to do that big of a foot bath, and that is stuck in the industry, and we maybe need to rethink that a little bit. So there is no not everything is good. So, and of course, if you have those dimensions, you have that amount of liquid inside. This is given by the regular foot baths that you are using. Of course, we can find foot baths way bigger than that. We've seen one yesterday. I think that it was 1,000 liters per foot bath in the visit that we made. So it's probably most of the bigger ones in a basin, individual basin that I've seen in my life. So very good. Okay, in general, in here I know that you use quite a bit more formalin, but if you use using this data from the Simpro database, and it's the same if you use US data, it's all over, it's very, very constant. You mostly use copper sulfate. This is the mostly used, most of the times, or sometimes used with other components in changing a schedule week after week or inside of the same week, etc. But this is the most common one, and of course it's expensive. I have many complaints from my clients before telling me, we need to reduce that amount of copper that we're putting here. I'm spending a lot of money and I'm putting too much copper in my fields. So this is an issue that needs to be addressed somehow, and I'm gonna give you some hints for that. Okay. Everybody is focused, mostly the salesman people, in selling you the best product that they can find, and you're gonna have 2,000 visits for a year with 2,000 different products, trying to sell you the magic bullet for digital dermatitis. This is the peer review research, the more recent one, that is done evaluating products that are going into your foot baths. If you look at here, and I don't want you to read everything, that I probably did that on purpose just to avoid you reading it, but if you look at bath type and length, all the trials, or most of them, are done with different sizes of foot baths. And I will give you that in a minute, if I demonstrate you that the foot bath can have an importance, then it's very difficult to believe or compare one trial to another to be able to recognize which one is the best, okay? So it's all over the place, and my only advice, and I don't have much advice, is that if you really want to change your foot bath product, you should ask for what is being done to prove that is better than what you have in your place or what you think that is the best in the industry. But look for trials, because there is a lot of easy talk around, and it's not that good. I've seen cows proving new products. I've been in Canada 3 months ago, and one farm, I think that he sells 10% of the farm, or 10% of the farm, selling 2% of the cows because of foot rot due to a new product that he introduced into the farm. So not everything works, okay? But just do a simple thing and use it under label, okay? Don't look at the sockets and say, you know, I'm not going to reach. Measure your water. It's that simple as it is. It's not hard math or rocket science. Measure the water, measure that, and look for shifts in the schedule. The one that knows how much product is given to the cows or into the mixture is the one that every day mixes it. And sometimes the bucket that we use, we don't need to have a scale for that, but the bucket that we use is going lower and lower and lower because suddenly one day we ran out of supply, and then the next day we did half, and then following day we keep doing so. You know, that management changes over time a little bit, so just check that the water is right, the product is right, and then you can discuss with someone else, you know, my product is not working. Good. Just a quick note. This has been recommended a lot. Use a pre-wash with water, and then use a treatment bath. The reason is we can clean the feet before, and you see that farm, this is going to be water, this is going to be the mix with the product. So we can clean the feet, and also, you know, we can make the cows pooping here, because they are going to do it. They are going to kind of stimulate this in a strange place. They're going to try to do it in the clean bath. And then we have a cleaner solution. Well, we put cameras in the 3 farms, and we look at. Then we went to the lab with results, and we look at how many times they are going to defecate in one or another. This is a little bit misleading picture because it was not in that farm, but I just happened to have this picture here. And the farms that we include in the trial, they had at least 4 feet between the water and the treatment bath. And look at what happened. This is the farm 1, 2, 3, and this is the summary. If you want to just look at the summary, because all the results across the farms is consistent, you look in red is the treatment bath, and in the blue is the wash bath, the pre-bath with just water, and look where the cows start putting more defecations of all of cows. So the cows start entering the wash bath, and they start pooping, and that's true. They start defecating in this one, but you know, they kept walking, and you know where the big stuff was? In the treatment bath. And that makes certain distance. The same effect, I mean, a much better effect, you will have it if you just want a unique bath, and they start doing it, but they finish up out of the treatment bath. So we start recommending the pre-wash for treatments, and this following thing that we thought about, and he said, you know, let's look how many times the back feet of the cow, because as a representation is enough, they are going to put the feet inside of the water if we have several dimensions. In order to do that, we didn't want to spend more money, so every time that we increase the length, we decrease the width, just to have the same amount of liquid inside. I'm not going to making you spend more money, but I want to know if I can do it more efficiently for treating feet. So this looks very ugly because the picture it was during the day, and then this space it was quite dark. But I can tell you that it was quite nice. So that structure allowed us to change length and width, and we make the cows pass through. Because we arrived to 20 inches, like 50 centimeters width, then for that, they will never pass. Of course, a cow is 3 feet wide, so they will never pass through. So we'll need some slope in the sides to make sure that they can feed through the footpath correctly. So we use a combination of different lengths, and just to maintain the 190 liters. And so we use 180 centimeters long, 240, 300, and 360 with the corresponding width to maintain the volume, except for the last time, because when we saw the 25 centimeters width working, and we were ready to go to the next step and make it longer even, but narrower, we saw the cows will not manage correctly. That was enough, so I will never go with less width than 25, that 50, okay? Oops. So this is how it looks. This is the wide one and short, and this is the flow in the long and narrow. So rather than finding a less flow, we found, and I'm not going to give you numbers because, well, I should have it, but we found a flow at least as quick as in the wide footbath. Probably due that the opaque sides will make the cows a little bit scary, maybe, and they manage it going faster through the footbath. So we are not going to reduce the flow of cows, even if you do it narrow. And that was a very nice finding for us. We were a little bit scary of that, and having a group of 100 cows and taking the whole morning to pass through, but that was not the case. So if you look in the x-axis to the length of the footbath, and in the y-axis the proportion of cows that are going to put the back feet twice into the water, you see that if you have 180, only 50% of the cows are going to put at least twice the back feet inside. So most of them are going to be just one immersion. If you do it at 240, 84%, and if you do it 3 meters or more, all of them, they're going to bath the back feet at least twice. And that makes sense. If I make it a mile, all of them are going to be 2 feet. But, that's not that much importance, because I have a wonderful graphic. It doesn't go. Oh, yeah. That explains it much better. Look, this is the graph that shows that, you know, by the time you make it 3 meters, all of the cows are going to step twice in the foot bath. But we found out one thing that is very nice. Just with 60 centimeters more, you change this pattern of 100% of the cows putting the feet twice into almost all the cows putting it 3 times. We think that, you know, a cow from the nose to the back, if it's a Holstein, is 8 feet. And because we have these dimensions, it's just at the end of the next stride, and you force them to put it once more in the foot bath. So our recommendation then, after that, it's going to be, you know, make it 3 meters or more, and then you guarantee twice immersion, 2 immersions or more. That's going to be our recommendation. And that doesn't prove that if you put twice, it's better. So we were kind of lame, because it's a lameness conference here. We kind of lame, said, you know, people raise their hand sometimes, says, can you show me that it's better to put it twice? It makes sense, it makes common sense, like dipping the teeth of a cow, but we didn't have those results. We didn't measure in this way. But Log, one of your British professors, recently in 2012, he published a study where he tried to prove the efficacy of copper sulfate against a new product. And the new product worked a little bit better than copper sulfate. That was his results. But in this trial, he also, very nicely, and I need to thank him in person when I will see him, he used 2 schedules for testing those 2 products. So the 2 products were tested in 2 different settings. One was with longer foot bath. It was just the same foot bath twice, so he put 2 in a row. And look at the effect of having a longer foot bath. Way more than the effect of the new product in this case, but more than 3 times better than having a foot bath of 2.2 meters. So now, if we go back to all the research that has been done in terms of chemical efficacy, we really need to think that the dimensions are going to be very important, even sometimes more than whatever you put in the foot bath as a chemical. Of course, you are not going to use just water, because that's not going to work. But things are going to be much better, even with a product that has much limited efficacy, okay? That's clear. So we thought about that. That was a 3D animation also, but I was scared from yesterday, so I removed the video and I don't care, because it's good enough. I do it when I have some free time. So we thought, you know, we could design a foot bath like this that is 0.5 to 0.7 meters of wide and 3.3 to 3.65 meters long. And this is because of our study. Of course, you can make it 4 meters, and then that will be great, okay? The risk of having these solid panels here is if a cow falls in there, then it's a mess, and some employees are going to be mad at you every 2 weeks. So we thought, you know, we should have some way of escaping any problems, and that will be open, the table will be down. But there is different versions. And for that, I'm going to show you 3 or 4 pictures of different versions. So that once you say that, then there's modifications all over the place. This is one with solid panels, and the only thing that is different here, solid panels go to the top. Cows go very fast, and no problems making them pass through there. Probably the first day they're going to think, what's that new there? That's engine there, but then they go very easy. So that's another version. I don't like it, but I take the picture because, I mean, too much concrete, difficult to fill, difficult to clean, and if something happens in there, it's not that good. Okay, but this is another version. It works very good in the farm, although you see, where is the biggest amount of manure in this foot bath? Out. This is where we want the manure. We don't want that filled out with crap. Okay, this is another version to make them go even faster. Okay, another thing that you can always think about the foot bath is how frequent I'm going to use it, or how many cow passes we are going to do. I'm going to give you a comment on that towards the end of the presentation, but basically it depends. For me as an epidemiologist by education, they tell me, you know, the best word that you can answer is it depends, because it's very, it looks like you are very good at something because you have many versions of the story, but it really depends. For frequency of use, you can use tools to determine how frequent you want your foot bath, because you want to use the less possible and saving money. And for how many cow passes, there is no really research talking about that. Strong research, at least. There is one paper from UK that talks about it, but recently there's nothing done with that. And the things that we have done, not published yet, if you have fairly clean cows, the product after 300 cows are going to be, copper sulfate in this case, are going to be very good. And after 400, it's going to be very active too. And after 500, it's going to be very active too. I'm pretty sure if it's a mess and cows come from the barn, going through the foot bath, everything is full of organic matter, it's not going to be enough with 300. You need to go lower to 200 or 100. So it depends, and I'm going to try to show you tools how you can determine that, okay? Well, I have other versions. You don't need to use chemicals. That's very early on yet, but they look very good. I don't have any results to show you, but they are out there, and I think that they can have a place in the industry. We don't know yet how much impact they are going to have, but these water jets, for sure they clean, in particular this one, for sure they clean the feet very well, okay? So, but remember what I told you yesterday. The foot baths are for controlling subclinical lesions in your farm. They are not for treating active lesions. The active lesions, you need to look after them. Okay, so the next letter, the I, the infection is, how am we doing with? Ooh, okay. Well, the rest is shorter, okay? The infection status, you need to know this. And we discussed yesterday that this is, you need to be as precise as possible. If you define E. coli mastitis or strep mastitis or environmental mastitis, etc., you need to be as precise as possible. You are going to be able to control subclinicals or clinicals. So you need to have an impression of that somehow. There is now quite a bit of software that can help you to do that. This is a cow side software for trimmers that you put in the crush or the chute if you are in America. And it's called AccuTrack. And I just did a screenshot of that because if I touch the D for digital dermatitis in that foot, it's going to give me a severity. It takes 3 seconds to enter the information for that cow. I hit D, and if it's a D2, I'm going to hit here. And if it's subclinical, depending which subclinical, coming from a chronic lesion, I'm going to hit a 5. The IT guy said, no, I'm not going to use 4.1, okay? I'm going to use a 5 because it will be messy for my computer. But anyways, it's the same, and then you apply a wrap or whatever, but you can store the information, and this is not just for digital dermatitis, of course, it's for all diseases, but you can use it later on for as a tool for that. Okay, so this is a group of 100 heifers that I took blood from them, and I thought, you know, the ELISA results that I showed you yesterday, can I use them as a tool? Not just for knowing how the disease works and what is the biology of the disease. Can I use it as a tool? This graph, I'm not going to spend time explaining what it is. Most of you know what it is, but this number here that says 86%, this is the average ability of the test, if I use it as a diagnostic tool, the ELISA test, to detect cows that really have the disease. And although it's not perfect, it's not 100%, this is not much worse than if you are not trained to find digital dermatitis, and you walk behind them with a flashlight, it's not that far from that. So even if I don't look at the cows, I could use an ELISA test, and I'm going to just tell you where you could use it for knowing what is the status of your cow. For sure, the visual inspection is your gold standard, but in those two graphs, this what I mean with that is I have an ELISA test. Imagine that you can take a blood sample, and you are going to buy a set of 300 cows from a farmer. Before coming to the farm, for example, if you really want to be proactive in controlling DD in your farm, you are super concerned, and you don't want to really buy cows with digital dermatitis, if you use an ELISA test in Origin, for example, and this is just an idea, don't take it like God, but you could use that you have additional information. You know, I'm buying from a farm that is 5% prevalence in digital dermatitis, or I'm buying from a farm that is 50% prevalence in digital dermatitis, my cows. I want to know how they are. And if you use a variable cut point, so the results from the ELISA come to you and said, you know, those are the 100 cows that that I want to sell to you. Okay, you look at you are going to be 80% sure that your cows, the cows that you are not gonna buy, they are not gonna have digital dermatitis in the last 100 days if they have had a clinical event before. So I don't really want to buy those cows. Then I'm gonna say, you know, in my ELISA test, all cows that have a value greater than 0.85, I'm not going to buy them. So that's another tool that you could use eventually if you want to really be proactive on defending your farm, on quotes, from buying animals very infected. Because this is one of the routes that normally it happens, that a very healthy, naive farm is full with digital dermatitis at some point. Okay. So the next step, a group of animals. Really, is it that important? And you all acknowledge that heifers are really a different group, different management, and sometimes, you know, they are not in the farm even. So, but they are in risk. This graph shows the survival. So if it's in red, it's the cows that had a digital dermatitis while they were heifers. This is data for the first lactation. This is a 4-year follow-up in a farm with 4,000 cows. And one cow that had a DD while she was a heifer, it has 2.3 times more probability of having digital dermatitis during the first lactation. So it's really important that your heifers are healthy. You really want to focus also on controlling digital dermatitis in your farm, because most of those, you know what, they are going to be the ones that have a hyperkeratosis on top of the digital dermatitis, chronic lesions that only holy water will heal them. You are going to have digital dermatitis on and on and on, and relapse rates. So you need to think about differently about what group of cows you are managing. Instead, if, for example, and don't look at the colors, just look at the green, which is digital dermatitis. In this particular case, we've been following that farm probably for 10 years now with records. The program is not that old, but we did it backwards. We introduced the records as soon as we had the program. And you know, in that farm, really the first lactation are the ones that are having the more digital dermatitis. So if I need to save some money or focus on some critical points, I'm going to be focusing on what's going on before calving for the first lactations, okay? Same thing, during the lactation, the risk is not the same. And if in this farm it's a different one, but the colors look the same because it's the same program, it's the program that I just showed you. You know, fresh cows are the ones that are more immunodepressed, and if you concentrate calvings, do certain management practices, I don't know, whatever, you name it, but you are going to have for sure problems in fresh cows differently than other groups. So you can target, if you have enough pig farm, practices depending on which group of cows you have. Of course, and I didn't talk much yet about hygiene, and yesterday I said that hygiene is a critical point because you need, if you remember, you need moisture and you need some type of skin damage to be able to recreate digital dermatitis. And I don't have much to say about that. Everybody knows what hygiene is, okay? And you have tools to evaluate the general status of hygiene in a farm, and you have like this 4-point scale, etc. There's several methods, but what I want to emphasize is you don't need a constant inoculation to have outbreaks or problems with digital dermatitis. And it took me a little bit also to get around that. So you don't need to have a shitty farm to have a problem with digital dermatitis. I can tell you that that farm looks 95% of the time great. But I'm not telling that the scrapers are bad. I don't know if somebody from the industry here is good. But you just need a place in the farm to concentrate an inoculation during half hour to have a problem with digital dermatitis. I can tell you, for example, in one farm that I've been working, the only problem we have with that farm is they moved the heifer, the fresh cows. They were hauled very close to the hospital pen. The first pen that were milked, the last pen that were milked was the hospital pen, and the first of the next turn will be the fresh pen. They move the cows from the hospital pen to the parlor. They scrape the hospital pen to the fresh pen that was just aside, just this thing. They milk, they wait until the machine was clean, and then they move the fresh pen. While they were waiting, they were two here. The rest of the day, they were fairly clean, perfect. Everything was very clean, and we were having way more problems in fresh cows, more than expected. So we just changed the routine for cleaning. We clean the fresh pen, we move it out, clean the fresh pen, clean the hospital pen, and move them to, and reduce 30% of the incidence in fresh cows. Okay, very simple things, and you don't need a constant inoculation. That's the secret. If your cows bunch because it's hot during 2 hours of the day, that's enough. You don't need more than that. The rest of the day, they are lying perfect. Keep going, okay? This is yeah, perfect. You don't need constant inoculation. This is a consultant work I did for lameness in Argentina last winter, and those cows were like this for 2 weeks because it was raining a lot. And when I entered the door, I feel like God there because I said, I know what it is. It's digital dermatitis, the problem of that farm. And the 10 guys that were with me, because we were running a trimming course at the same time, they were agreed. That's so easy. Zero. No digital dermatitis in that farm, okay? The problem was a totally different one. It was thin soles, but no digital dermatitis in that farm. They were a good program, heifers were well treated, and most of the time, out of those 2 weeks, they were in a dry lot. Perfect, no problem, okay? So sometimes it can be a little bit misleading. No constant inoculation needed. And if you remember what I showed you yesterday, well, I didn't show you this because the video didn't run, but if you remember this, once the disease is on, you don't need any more manure. The disease is going to create a space interdigitally here, just to maintain herself. So you needed to do it proactive. If not, once it's there, you don't need. They can be clean, don't worry, they will survive. Okay, even if you clean them. Okay, another thing, you've seen that's normal in heifers, so in freestalls. Okay, overgrowth of the medial aspect of the lateral toe, back feet, super common. Normally when you trim, if your trimmer is good and he uses a Dutch method, and there is quite a bit of variation, but he can do a long step 3 in the lateral claw. In a trial that we are doing, using that, comparing trimming with more or less step 3, so the cows are trimmed perfectly the same. The only thing that we change is the amount of removal of the, we call it modeling, is the step 3. Only that, it will be enough to reduce the number of digital dermatitis that you have in the farm. You create a clear space, and we don't do it for digital dermatitis, that step. We do it for soil ulcers. But it happens that if you open that space, you change the dynamics a little bit of the food, and you can prevent a little bit the occurrence of digital dermatitis. In this case, in this study, and we are still running it. This is just 1/2 of the data or something like this. Is 70% is not even significant, but it tends to be. And it makes sense that if I reduce 7%, I will buy everything with 7% less dermatitis.
You go back to the book, the photo just shows with your hand what you meant, the point wasn't working. So.
Okay, so that's the step 3 that we are doing. So we are doing more or less of that. Okay, you see this hole that we create here with a knife or with the grinder, and we do just like 1 centimeter or even go almost to the white line, okay? And that only that change, it can make a difference. So you can have an impact in the way you trim cows. Okay, another thing, and this is very discussed in the UK, is the secondary infections with digital dermatitis. You really need also a good trimmer, very good trimmer. So there's no excuse for having the best one. Somebody said yesterday, you need to have the best employees, and that's really true. The farmer is not more than an employee for you because you pay him. And this is a digital dermatitis and a toe necrosis, and for that, to be able to heal that, you really need a very good trimmer. It can be done. That cow, this cow, we trim that cow, we almost remove 1 toe, but after 1.5 years, it's the same cow. So it can be done. There is a 98% success with a nice trimming, okay? I'm finishing. So we really need early topical trimming, and I'll talk to you about it. And if you remember yesterday, this is a cow with an active lesion, and this is 17 days later, and you will say, I cured her. After a while, I cannot see anything. If you look inside, after 17 days, this black thing here, there is bacteria that is stored there. You remember when I said that digital dermatitis can go in cystic forms very easy? So even if with very fresh lesions, you need to be active very quick to avoid them to go in this form. Okay, so early treatment and as much as you can. If you treat early, and this is a graph that I love it, this is a farm for 1.5 years. If you treat early, in this farm it was treated very early, you start with a proliferative lesion. This is with fingers and everything, no foot bathing, and at the end of the period, we don't have those lesions anymore. The only thing that we did is look after the lesions and treat them as soon as possible. Only thing that we did, remove the foot bath program. Imagine if I add to this farm a foot bath program, I'm pretty sure that this prevalence of 15% is going to go down, because the only thing that I need to cure here is the subclinicals. So you treat them quick and you treat the subclinicals. Done. You're done. Do and think about a new parlor or something, because digital dermatitis is no more a problem. And also, this is my last slide, or second to last. Use the records that you just make the trimmer do for you to manage the frequency of use and how many cow passes you need per mix. If you have the records, you know how many chronicas or subclinicas you have, and then you adjust to your group of cows depending on how much you had the previous month or 2 months ago or the last summer comparing to this summer. So you can use the records to adjust your schedules and minimize the amount of money that you are investing in food baths. Okay? For example, this graph is to show, if I look at how many calves I'm going to have during this period, I probably need to intensify a little bit the food bath program somehow, because I know that I'm going to have all those calvings during that period. Let's look at the fresh penny and if I can intensify the program down there. Okay? So this is just a table, and I can send it to you because it's not in the presentation, but summarizing what are your tools and what are the objectives of those tools and how you can do it. So, good. Done.
Thank you very much indeed, Arturo. That's a tremendous summary, and I do appreciate you coming across from America.